You need a bit of shock treatment. Get you jumping like a real live wire. Need a bit of shock treatment. So look out, mister, don't you blow your last resistor for a pistol that'll mystify ya.
Hey y'all, I'm Derek and welcome to Bad Movie Fry Night. You know, sometimes a movie is too far ahead of its time. When it first comes out, it's maligned and greeted with bad reviews. But upon another glance, you realize actually how great a movie it is. That's where we get today's show. Shock treatment. In the later half of the 1970s, producer Lou Adler wanted to ride high on the unexpected success of the Rocky Horror Picture Show and asked Richard O'Brien to write a sort of sequel to cash in. Originally titled The Brad and Janet Show, the story was meant to take place in and around the town of Denton, Texas. Unfortunately, right as production got underway, the Screen Actors Guild went on strike, forcing a full stop on filming in outdoor locations. So, the production moved inside to an English studio, and O'Brien reworked the script so the entire story takes place inside a television studio. When this movie first premiered, it was given a midnight premiere on Halloween, and wasn't received well either publicly or critically. However, in recent years, it has received a critical re-evaluation, mostly for its predictions on reality television. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. In fact, don't tell anybody, but it might actually be higher up on my list than Rocky Horror. Funny to think, since Richard O'Brien has basically disowned this film. But it still deserves to be seen, and since it's basically set in an asylum, I am making insanely good sliders for today. Right now, I'm just chopping up a pound of bacon. So let's get started. Our film begins with a still shot with voiceover. You know, coming off such an iconic opening sequence like Rocky Horror, this is a little less dynamic than one would expect. And then we get our overture. Yes, we actually get a classic overture for this picture, all while the studio is prepared and the audience fills in. Then we get our opening number. Now, like I said in The Apple, an opening number is supposed to set the stage for the rest of the film, giving us a look into the world of the story. This does it very well, with its kitschy 50s throwbacks to Americana. We meet Brad and Janet, played by Cliff DeYoung from The Craft and Jessica Harper from Suspiria, Betty HAPSCHATT, played by Ruby Wax of Chariots of Fire, and Judge Oliver Wright, played by Charles Gray, who, other than Jeremy Newsom, is the only actor playing the same character from Rocky Horror. Sure, it's a different name, but it's the exact same character. So, soon a show called Marriage Maze begins, hosted by Dame Edna. No, that's not a joke. That's actually Barry Humphries, who plays Dame Edna. Well, it turns out Brad and Janet are having marriage troubles, and they're chosen as contestants on the show. And this is only the first 10 minutes. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm mixing that chopped up bacon with equal parts of ground beef. And to that, I'm going to add some Worcestershire sauce. And my Cajun Curry Spice mix. Now, don't overwork this, otherwise the meat will become tough. But after this is all mixed together well, we're going to take it out and push it flat on this long cookie sheet that I've already lined with wax paper. Then we're going to cover that with cling film and just sit it in the fridge for about an hour to firm up. Okay, so the show decides Brad needs psychological counseling and sends him off to another show, Dentonvale, set in an insane asylum. But not before Brad and Janet argue and sing to inanimate objects.
Dear blender,
You won't blend into the background for this in your home.
won't you help the first offender? Oh, toaster.
And then we meet Doctors Cosmo and Nation McKinley, played by Richard O'Brien and Patricia Quinn, and they commit Brad without any delay, although Janet refuses to sign the paperwork. Then we get another song.
You should know that I still love you.
the music's really good, and who doesn't like dancing in the kitchen? I mean, Practical Magic is a movie based around that idea. So while we wait for the meat to firm, let's go ahead and make a blue cheese sauce to put on top. When it comes to putting this on burgers, I always make my own, because that way I can make it nice and thick and it's not too runny. So in this bowl, I've got about 6 ounces of blue cheese that I've just crumbled up. To that, I'm going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice. That's going to help cut through all the fat and just give a nice little taste, a nice little burst, you know. And to that, 1 spoonful at a time, I'm going to add a spoonful of mayonnaise, just until I get to the right consistency. I like mine so that it's just moist enough to hold together. That way we get a nice thick sauce. Okay, so Janet goes to visit her parents on another TV set, and they deliver another song.
Tomorrow, tomorrow, parents is dead.
So Janet goes back to see the doctors, who won't let her see Brad, and instead show her a video of Farley Flavors, also played by Cliff DeYoung, who is a fast food mogul who owns the television station, and he tries to woo Janet with a song. And Janet starts to fall for Farley's spell. So, while Farley flatters Janet, let's go ahead and make some onions for our sliders. We're just going to cut these very thin and then separate those layers into a bowl and set them to a side for later. But we're also going to make our batter to fry those in. What I got in this cup is 1 scrambled egg, a teaspoon of salt, and a cup of flour. To that, I'm going to add up to 1.5 cups of beer. And we're going to do this slowly, just until we get our consistency. If there's any beer left over, you can just drink it. Okay, before I get too far ahead of myself, there's another plot going on with Betty and the judge, where they're trying to figure out what Farley Flavors' deal is. As it progresses, Betty's show gets canceled in order to make room for the Farley Flavors Faith Factory show. I pointed out because it plays into the main plot later on. Anyway, after dinner, Janet is given a guest room at the asylum, where there's a song riddled with sexual tension about going to sleep. So, the next morning, Janet's taking a shower and Dame Edna decides to check up on her, but gets interrupted by Dr. Nation McKinley, telling Janet that Cosmo is waiting for her in the wardrobe, where there's one of the catchier songs in the film.
Well, first you go rip, rip, rip.
Then you go snip, snip, snip. What? I wasn't dancing. Who said I was? I'm just frying some French fries for later on. Then you put in a zip, zip, zip. Okay, so up next is the morning show, where Janet makes her appearance as an overnight sensation, singing the most 80s of 80s songs. And so, Janet's parents go to visit Brad. Janet goes to visit Brad, and we get the title song.
You need a bit of treatment. Get you jumping like a real.
Oh, screw it! I can't even take it anymore. Now, Janet leaves as her ego starts getting bigger and bigger, and the McKinleys drug her, and she goes into having a fever dream where she's walking through the Tans Academy looking for Winslow Leach. Ha ha! 2 different movies in one reference. I am just too clever.
I'm looking for love. I'm looking for
Meanwhile, Betty and the judge continue their investigations into Farley Flavors and decide to play dress up. Soon, they find out Farley is actually Brad's twin brother, separated at birth, and Farley has a bitter grudge against Brad for being brought up in a good home. You see, this movie is just like a classic soap opera. God, I love it. Okay, so let's hurry up and cook these sliders. All I did was take a pizza cutter and cut out the size I wanted out of the meat. And then I just put it on this griddle, and we're going to cook it for about 2 minutes on each side. And since these take no time at all, we're going to start on our onion toppers as well. All we're going to do is take all those onions we did and drop them into our batter. Just like we were doing with the tempura. Give it a good swish. And then dunk it in. Okay, first everyone gets dressed for the Faith Factory show.
Look what I did to my kid.
And then everyone gets pumped up for the Faith Factory show.
Break it out! Break it out! Break it out! Break it out!
And Janet comes out to a bunch of pomp and circumstance, looking absolutely done with everything. Meanwhile, the judge and Betty rescue Brad and take him out to confront his brother on TV, where they have a song together.
You've lost your heart!
You've lost your cause.
You lost your baby when you lost your balls!
What I absolutely love about this is Cliff DeYoung doing a duet with himself, and each part is in a different range, and it looks like he's having so much fun with it. Anyways, after that, Janet spurs Farley, and Brad, Janet, Betty, and the judge are locked in an office while the entire town goes to Dentonvale to get committed. Well, all but the band. Of course, as soon as the entire town goes into the asylum, we get our grand finale. And the movie ends with Brad, Janet, Betty, the judge, and the band riding off into the sunset. And the sliders are ready. So just put a patty on a bun, cover that with that nice blue cheese sauce we made, and cover that with our little onion zingers. Serve with fries and a beer and you're good to go. So, final thoughts on the film. I cannot express how much I love this movie. The writing is clever. The songs are catchy, the visuals are striking and fun, and the cast is giving 110%. It's a shame that it's not as well known as its sister movie, Rocky Horror. I say sister movie because I really don't consider this a sequel. It's a standalone film that just happens to include some of the same characters from a previous film. Anyways, this movie is great to share with friends. It's amazing how accurate it is when it comes to reality television and chasing fame. It's so 80s, but so timeless at the same time. You can watch this now and see parallels to modern life. All in all, this is a great film. I love it, I love it, I love it. And I hope that you give it a chance and you will probably love it too. So gather up your friends, have some good food, and enjoy this campy 80s romp. Well, thanks for stopping by, thanks for tuning in, and come back next week when January Jingles continues.
Some people do it for each other. Some people do it for the lover. Some people do it for improvement. Some people do it for the movement. Some people do it for enjoyment. Some people do it for employment.